This is part of Foundations of Data Visualization. I'm Stephen King from the University of North Carolina. We're going to talk about how we work through a data set and how we learn about what we have, and it's more of an exploratory, just kind of see what's there process. So I'm going to do that a little bit, and so this will be a chance for you to just watch and see how I work with a data set. So go ahead and open Microsoft Excel and make sure you have the files that are in today's folder. We're going to start with importing HTML data. So sometimes you don't have a CSV or an XML or a JSON file, and so you might need to get that from an HTML table. Here I am at ed.gov. I found it on data.gov, and I've done a search to show just the schools in Durham, North Carolina, and I just want to show surveys from 2013, and so I can select and copy all of these schools. You don't have to do this with me. I'm just going to show you how to do this. So Command C to copy, switch back over to Excel, and then we're going to go to Edit, Paste Special. And we want to paste it as text. Make sure you only had one cell selected, hit OK, and then now we have a nice table where everything's pulled in. It looks like things are lined up except for one small thing. These are a little off, misaligned, so I can just cut those, line those back up, and remove the table. Sorry, remove the first column. So I can drag this out and see what we have here. We have all the schools in Durham. So that's how we imported an HTML table. The other way you might have things is you might have text file. So we can see this is one that is coming from Fairfax, Virginia, which is one I worked with, a data set I worked with a lot at the Washington Post. So I just knew this was available. It's constantly updated. I think hourly, maybe it's daily, but it's often. And so it shows you every crime, every arrest that was from the last 24 hours, I think, or even longer, but it's a running list that gives you that. So here it is as basically just a text format. It's tab delimited. So what I do is I hit Command A, copy this, and I'm going to open a new spreadsheet, and I'm going to paste that in, and you'll see it looks right, but it's not actually right, because if I click into one of these cells, you'll notice that all the data is within that cell, which is not what we want. So I'm going to close that and then now show you the right way to do that, which is using the paste special. So File, New Workbook, click on the first cell, and then Edit, Paste Special again, do it as text, and then hit OK, and this looks much better. It has it. Now, one of the things we're missing here is we don't have our header. So I'm going to add a new line, so insert a new row, and then this is where I would put my header. So that is copy and pasting and importing a text file and HTML. And so now we want to work with a CSV, which is a little bit easier. So what I want you to do is go ahead and open the file, the CSV file that is included in today's files. It's called North Carolina Projections by Age 2017. So we're going to open that CSV. And we have a lot of data. So let's make sure we know and understand how to work with this. It looks like a lot of numbers. You can scroll, you can see lots of columns. And let's see if we can understand. The good thing is we do have a header. So let's go ahead and freeze this header. Under View, freeze top row, and go back to Home. And we want to add a filter to be able to filter by each column. So I'm going to go ahead and click Filters with it highlighted, and it will put a filter on the top. Now, let's explore and kind of see what we have. Obviously, we have ages, and it looks like we have the total number of people in every age from 0 to 100, and we have it by gender. We also have, it looks like, years, so 2000 to 2015, 2027, what you have is the projections of population through 2037. Okay, so you got 30 years of projections. And then we also have it by county. So we have the state and we have the county. So if we wanted to tell a story with this, we may not need all this data. And working with this, especially in a web browser without a database, would be pretty difficult. So what I might do is say, let's just look at the state data's projections, or let's look at our individual county. Or if I wanted to look at, 18 to 35-year-olds, those types of things, I could select different pieces of that data. So I'm going to hide all of the ages at the moment. So I select the first age, scroll through to 100, and I'm going to right-click, control-click, and click Hide. And now I have something that looks a little bit better. So we have a lot of data here, and it's a little bit too much to work with, especially in the web browser. So we want to continue to simplify this. So what I did was I sorted by gender. So I can filter and say, just show me the total of their, because we have male, female, and total. I don't need all of those because I'm just going to show the total number here. So that simplifies it, cuts it into about a third. And then now I might only show this by state. So I can unselect all these others in my filter and just show the state ones. And so now I have 15 different things to be shown here, or actually a little bit more. Okay. And so what would be the best way to show this? We have basically the years projections, and then we have the total population. So this is something that might be a nice trend line. So I can select these two columns, Command C. I like to do this on another spreadsheet just to make life a little bit easier, simplify it some, and then paste those two columns. And then maybe I will do a little bit of a data visualization. We will come in here and go to Insert. Well, first we want to select our two columns, then go to Insert, Chart, and we're going to do a line graph because this would be a nice trend over time. So we're going to show that, and it's going to create that chart for you. Now, if it came in a little bit seemingly backwards, like the line didn't make a lot of sense, you can click up here the switch row and column, and it'll do it. So you might have had something like this, like that, and I could switch and get it back to something that looks like a normal trend line. And there's a lot of things we could do with this. I would encourage you to use this data set and play with this a little bit and see what you can make of it. Are there other visualizations you might want to do? Can you inverse the selection, changing them? Do you maybe want to do one particular county? You could select and do every county, but only do every 10 years to show a projection. There's lots of things you could do, so I'd encourage you to play with this on your own. Now, we're going to go back and work with that crime data, and I'm going to talk about cleaning up the data. So I have it here. What I want you to do is to go to this URL, which is fairfaxcounty.gov/police/crime/arrest.txt. I want you to go there and copy and paste special into a new document. Then go ahead and add the header as I showed you, and make sure that you add the filters. And when you're ready, let's start the next video. The reason we're using this data set is there is so much here. This is very much a real world kind of set. It has lots of errors in it. It has some things that are left out, and so we want to make sure we understand what we're looking at. So first thing I do is kind of see what I have, and you can see we have lots of different charges. So we can see what everyone got arrested for: embezzlement and prescription drugs, drunk in public, DWIs. There's a lot in here. Also, we have ages. So one question we might ask is how many, what was the average age of arrests? We could do that. But what is missing in this particular set if we look at age? You might notice that there is no age under the age of 18. Public records do not include minors, and so we couldn't say how many arrests actually happened based on this data in a certain amount of time because it excludes minors. So you could say how many adults were arrested. Make sure we've done is have that header. Make sure that we go to view and we have it frozen on the top row. The top row is frozen. We want to make sure that is the case because once we start doing our sorting, it will drive us crazy. So we have only our DWIs. We have a mess of addresses. So we want to make sure we can clean those out. We've got notes in our addresses, which sometimes comes when you have a comma delimited or tab delimited file. So let's see if we can clean this up. The best way to do this would be to sort by address. Sorry. Not filter, sort. That's under home. A to Z. And the answer is yes, sort it. And now what that's done is it's kind of organized all these notes and separated them from addresses because addresses tend to start with numbers. So that got most of them right. So what we're going to do is select, starting at the addresses, including the other columns, and we're going to move them all over a column. So we'll just select here. I'm going to Command X to cut. And then I'm going to come over and select one cell and paste. So that looks like it got a lot of them, but still we've got some problems. So we need to fix our different things. So we got some numbers here that should be in the address, but instead they've ended up over here in the city. So we'd want to fix those. So again, I would select the column and sort A to Z. I think that helps. So now all of these are off a little bit. So I don't know what those are, so I really don't like to throw things away. So what I would tend to do is select these, and I will cut and move it, and it's a series of working through this. So once you have that done, then you can move to the next step. So hopefully you have your addresses cleaned up. I've added a header of notes and fixed these to be in the right column. And now there's still a little more cleaning we need to do. For example, here we have DWI first offense and DWI first auth. You'll see that in several different ways. And so what we want to do is a search and replace. So I tend to copy that and then go to edit, find, replace, and I will take what I have copied. Make sure there's no extra spaces like I have there. So find first offense and replace it with So now there were 83 of those, and so now they're all the same. Oh, looks like we got another one. So again, copy that, search and replace, and you can continue to do that to clean things up. And then, first offense of the child. So you'll need to kind of figure out what you're going to do about those. And so we get those. Now, looking back at age, maybe we want to know the average age. So here I just clicked in and did equals average. And it's actually easier to type it in than it is to scroll through all of these different cells. So you may want to type D2, because we don't need the first line, through the last one, which is 289. And then we get the average age of 31 and a half, just about. So here we are starting to get a little information, but I want to know where these people are from. So I have an address. I can see that all of these addresses happened, most of them are outside of the Fairfax County, Virginia area, so I know that they're not necessarily where the event happened, but it is the address of where the person lived. So let's take this data and make a new sheet. So I'm going to select column A. I'm going to select all of the address columns holding the command. I hit Command C to copy, and then I'm going to hit the plus down at the bottom and open a new sheet. Hopefully, if my computer can handle it. Hit plus. And one of the reasons I'm creating a new sheet is because this is a lot of cells that are being hidden, and so it's processor intensive to keep kind of sorting through all these. So if I put all this in one single sheet, it'll make things move a lot faster. Now that we have all of the addresses and just the last name here in this separate sheet, it should move faster. You could also put it into its own separate workbook and close the others if processing has been a problem. So what we're going to do now is we have the addresses and we want to put them into a map, and Google's going to help us do that, but to do that first we need to export this as a CSV. So go to File, Save As, and we're going to select it as a CSV, comma delimited, and we're going to do just this sheet, which is all it will do, and we're going to call this DWI addresses. And it's warning you that it's only the active sheet and it doesn't include some formatting. Alright, so we have that CSV. Now what I want you to do is go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, and you can log in to your account and then go to Your Places, and you can go to Maps, and then we're going to hit Create Map. So first thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead and title this. This is just a visualization for us to play with. Call it whatever you want. And now what we're going to do is import that JSON file. So I'm going to go over here to the far left menu, click Import, and it says I can do that with a CSV. And I want to get that file, DWI addresses, and drag that in. And what it's going to ask you is, where does it actually get the geo data? So it's going to take the text and run it through a geoencoder. So we need to include street, city, state, and zip. And then click Continue. And then what do we want to actually be the marker's name? And so in this case, that's the reason I left last name, and so we'll just put last and hit Finish. So now what it's doing is it's geocoding each one of those addresses, and it said there were 42 that had errors, so we'd have to work through those and try to figure that out. But for now, we'll leave that as is. So you can see we have people from all over the country, but let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit and see what do we have. I'm actually going to go ahead and just say Fairfax, Virginia, because I know that's where it is. And we see what's funny about this is most of these don't seem to actually be in Fairfax. They're kind of all over the Washington area region, including Arlington, a few in Washington. And so if we were to say that Fairfax County had a driving under the influence problem and we wanted to create some kind of educational program to stop that, what we would quickly realize is that it's not necessarily Fairfax County residents, it's actually residents from all over who happen to be driving through Fairfax County. So that helps us. This visualization is one way that we can see exactly where people are coming from. You also see a little bit about the migration patterns here as people live off the interstates and farther out of the DC area. So visualizations can really help you to see things, and Google Maps lets you import CSVs and work through and fix those problems. So if we want to look at those problems, we could go to the open the data table, and it shows you which ones had a problem. And so again, I didn't fix some of these things. We had numbers in for the city, and so we might need to play and fix that. So I want to show you a project that I worked on. This is when the Ebola crisis was really at its worst in Liberia. The Ministry of Information called and said they had all of this data and didn't really know what to do with it, and the CDC wasn't coming through with quick, actionable visualizations and statistics for them. So what we were able to do was to build a quick database dashboard for this. So this was on the wall of their situation room. It showed the total number of cases and deaths and tracked this and gave them visualization so they could see what was happening at any given time. It gave them geographic data as well as very specific by county, number of cases, percent change over time, all of the things that they needed we were able to visualize and do. But before this ever got to this nice interface that you see here, it was actually an Excel spreadsheet. So what had happened was I would get this set of data every day, and the first time what we did was I spent time working through that base data of understanding what we had by date, working the contacts, making pivot tables, understanding, breaking out each important piece to see what was there, deaths over specific labs, all of the different pieces of it we worked, and then I put it into a dashboard. And so I basically did several visualizations to see what was the most important, went back to them to see what would be best, and this is kind of what we came up with, and then we ultimately built that into the site that you see now. So cool thing about the project was 10 students worked on it. We built a lot of interesting resources and came up with a lot of very important and helpful information that helped them make decisions until they got their own system up and running. So it was a neat experience, something that I was proud to be a part of, and it's something that at the end of this class you would be able to build something like this. Now, I didn't talk a lot about charts, as we'll get into a lot more with charts when we start working more in the JavaScript charts. But I do want you to do some data visualization similar to this, and you're going to be building your own dashboard. So you can learn these things on your own. You're going to insert chart. You basically select the text, you'll insert it. I did a line graph earlier, but you can see there's a lot of different ones you can do this. So get your data in a usable, understandable way and start experimenting. So that brings us to your assignment. You need to practice this. You've been watching it go through, and now you need to do it. So what I want you to do is open the North Carolina projections by age for 2017 file, and I want you to build your own dashboard. You need to create some kind of big numbers to show some of the big important stats that you see. You can select it by state, you can do it by county, you can do projections every 10 years, however you want to handle it. It's up to you, but I need you to do some formulas and create something that is similar to this. Now, this is a complex one. You need to do at least 3 of the 3 visualizations, and you need to do some formulas. Here's again the Liberia one that I did. This one has 9 visualizations, and you see the total deaths, cases, that type of thing. So that's what I'm looking for: numbers and visualizations. And here's the assignment. I want you to bring this back to class, and we will be building on this as we move forward. So we've covered a lot in how we work with data, how do we understand the story in the data, how do we actually execute this in Excel, and then how do we export it out of Excel. That's how we were doing the CSVs. And then we'll take that data after we've done our strong storytelling work in Excel, and we'll bring that into our JavaScript files and learn how to visualize that in an interactive and dynamic way.